Imagine coming home after months abroad, expecting to see your loving family. But instead, you catch your wife hurting your own disabled mother. What would you do next? Kunle Adeyemi faced this shocking betrayal in his own mansion. Watch the full story to see how he exposed the truth and brought justice. Don't forget to like, comment, and share if you're shocked by this story, and subscribe to the channel for more unbelievable real-life drama stories like this. The city of Lagos was alive that evening, with the noise of traffic, honking Danfo buses, and the cries of street vendors selling roasted corn, fruits, and bottled water. Among the chaos, a sleek black SUV pulled into the quiet estate of Ikoyi, where one of the wealthiest men in Nigeria, Kunle Adeyemi, had just arrived home after 6 long months abroad. Kunle was no ordinary man. In his early 40s, tall and well-built, he had built a fortune in real estate, oil, and tech investments. The tabloids called him the silent billionaire because he rarely spoke about his wealth, yet his influence was everywhere. Despite his success, Kunle had one soft spot in his heart: his mother. Mama Adeyemi, a kind, God-fearing woman in her 70s, had raised him single-handedly after the death of his father. A tragic accident years ago had left her unable to walk, bound to a wheelchair, but she was still his greatest source of strength. Kunle's marriage, however, was not as perfect as people thought. His wife, Adanna, a stunning woman from an influential family, enjoyed luxury, parties, and appearances. Though she smiled in public and charmed everyone, something about her always felt distant. Kunle ignored the feeling, convincing himself that she was loyal and supportive of his mother in his absence. That evening, Kunle had planned a surprise. He hadn't told Adanna he was returning. He wanted to see his mother's face light up when she saw him. As the SUV stopped at the gates, Kunle stepped out in a simple white kaftan and sandals. The driver offered to carry his bags, but Kunle waved him off. "No, leave them. I want to walk in quietly," he said with a smile. The compound was quiet. Too quiet. Usually, the house help would be humming, music would be playing from Adanna's room, or the sound of his mother's TV dramas would echo through the halls. Instead, there was only silence. Kunle unlocked the main door himself, entering the grand living room. The chandeliers glowed warmly, and the expensive marble floor shone under the lights. But as he moved deeper into the house, he heard something unusual. Muffled voices coming from his mother's room down the corridor. Curious, he walked closer, his footsteps light against the polished floor. As he reached the half-open door of Mama Adeyemi's room, his heart froze. Inside, he saw a sight that made his blood run cold: his wife. Adanna stood towering over Mama Adeyemi, who sat helpless in her wheelchair. Adanna's face twisted in anger as she shoved a tray of food away, spilling hot soup onto the floor. "You useless old woman," she snapped. "You think just because you're his mother, I must serve you like a slave? You will eat when I say you will eat." Kunle's mother tried to speak, her frail voice trembling. "Adanna, please." "Don't!" But before she could finish, Adanna leaned down, gripping the armrest of the wheelchair with force. "If you tell Kunle anything, I swear you will regret it." Kunle's heart pounded. He felt rage boiling inside him, yet he stood frozen at the door. The woman he trusted, the one he had married, was abusing the person he loved most in the world. For a moment, Kunle wanted to burst in, to shout, to drag Adanna out of the room. But something inside him stopped him. Instead, he stepped back into the shadows, his fists clenched. He knew that one wrong move now could allow her to deny everything later. No, he told himself. He would not act blindly. He would gather the truth, the proof, and when the time came, he would strike so hard that Adanna could never escape the consequences. And so, silently, with his heart breaking, Kunle turned and walked away from the door. His eyes burned with unshed tears as he whispered under his breath, "Mama, I promise you, this ends soon." The night dragged on heavily for Kunle. He sat alone in his study, the massive mahogany desk scattered with papers he hadn't touched, his laptop glowing dimly and a glass of untouched water by his side. The image of what he had witnessed, his wife, Adanna, abusing his disabled mother, played in his head again and again like a cruel loop. He clenched his fists, the veins in his arms visible as he struggled to contain the storm inside him. For years he had built an empire, faced betrayals from business rivals, and outwitted greedy politicians. But nothing had prepared him for this kind of betrayal, one that came from inside his own home, from the woman he had shared his life with. Kunle knew he couldn't simply walk up to Adanna and confront her. She was clever, manipulative, and charming in public. If he accused her without proof, she would deny it, twist the story, and maybe even turn people against him. No, he had to be patient. He had to uncover the full truth, but first, he had to make sure his mother was safe. At midnight, Kunle left his study quietly and walked back to his mother's room. The door was closed and the light was dim. He opened it gently, peeking inside. Mama Adeyemi was still awake, sitting in her wheelchair, staring blankly at the floor. The tray of spilled food had been cleaned, probably by one of the house staff, but the sadness in her eyes told a story words could not. "Mama," Kunle whispered as he stepped in. His mother looked up, shock and relief washing over her face. "Kunle, my son." "You're back?" Her voice trembled, and tears welled in her eyes. Kunle rushed forward, kneeling beside her, taking her fragile hands into his. "Yes, Mama, I came home earlier than expected. I wanted to surprise you." Mama Adeyemi tried to smile, but her lips quivered. She looked away as if trying to hide something. Kunle knew instantly this was not the first time. Tonight wasn't just a random moment of anger from Adanna. This was part of a pattern. "Mama," Kunle said softly, his voice breaking, "tell me the truth. What has she been doing to you?" At first, Mama Adeyemi shook her head, refusing to answer. "Kunle, no. I don't want to destroy your marriage. I kept silent because I didn't want you to suffer. A man without peace in his home is not a man at all." Her words cut into Kunle's heart like a knife. He tightened his grip on her hands. "Mama, you are my world. Nothing matters more than you. If Adanna is hurting you, I need to know." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. Slowly she nodded. She despises me. When you are away, she denies me food, she shouts at me. Sometimes she pushes me. The staff are afraid to speak because she threatens them with dismissal. I have lived in silence, Kunle, praying for God to give me strength. Kunle's jaw clenched, his chest rising and falling heavily. Every word from his mother added fuel to the fire inside him. His wife, the woman he trusted, had been tormenting the very person who gave him life. He leaned forward, resting his forehead against his mother's hand. "I swear to you, Mama, I will not let this continue. By the God we serve, I will end her cruelty." Just then the door creaked. Both Kunle and his mother turned. Adanna stood in the doorway, dressed in a silky nightgown, her expression unreadable. "Oh," she said, feigning surprise. "I didn't know you were back, Kunle. You should have called. I would have prepared something special for you." Her smile was forced, her eyes calculating. Kunle's face was stone cold. "I arrived quietly," he replied flatly. "Didn't want to disturb anyone." Adanna's eyes flickered toward Mama Adeyemi, then back to Kunle. "Well," she said sweetly, "since you're home, tomorrow we should host a small dinner. Friends, business partners, it would be nice to welcome you back properly." Kunle stared at her, his silence heavier than words. Adanna lingered for a moment before turning and walking away, her perfume trailing behind her. As the door closed, Kunle whispered to his mother, "Did you see her face? She's scared. She knows I'm watching." And in that moment, Kunle made a decision. He would not just confront Adanna. He would expose her. He would peel away the mask she wore before the entire world, until nothing but her true face remained. But to do that, he needed evidence. He needed the truth, caught in a way she could not deny or escape. The dark secret was now out in the open for Kunle, and he was ready to begin the war to protect his mother. The next morning in Lagos was bright, the sun blazing across the skyline as the city roared to life with Danfo buses, car horns, and the shouts of street hawkers. But inside Kunle Adeyemi's mansion, the atmosphere was tense and heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Kunle hadn't slept a wink. All night he had replayed his mother's words, her trembling voice telling him about the abuse she had endured. Rage burned in his chest, but he forced himself to remain calm. He knew Adanna. His wife was not just beautiful, she was dangerous. She knew how to manipulate, how to twist truth into lies, how to make herself look like a victim. If he stormed into her room screaming, she would cry, deny, and play innocent. He needed to be smarter. He began his morning by visiting the security control room at the back of the house. Only a handful of staff even knew it existed. Rows of screens displayed footage from hidden cameras across the mansion, corridors, entrances, gardens, even his mother's room. Kunle had installed them years ago after a burglary attempt, but he had never bothered to check them regularly. Now, as he rewound the footage from the past few weeks, his heart sank. There it was. Adanna in her silk dresses and polished heels screaming at his mother. Adanna slapping a tray of food away. Adanna roughly spinning the wheelchair so hard his mother cried out in pain. Adanna threatening the staff with her cold, venomous voice. Every frame was like a knife through Kunle's chest. But at the same time, it was what he needed. Proof. Solid, undeniable evidence. He copied the footage onto a secure hard drive and tucked it away in his study drawer. Then, he returned to his mother's room. "Mama," he said softly, "today, I will make her face the truth. But I need you to be strong." Mama Adeyemi looked worried. "Kunle, my son, be careful. Adanna has powerful friends. Her family is influential. They will not let you shame her easily." Kunle shook his head firmly. "I don't care if her father is a senator or if her cousins own half of Abuja. No one hurts you and gets away with it. She married me for my name, my wealth, my empire. But she forgot the one thing that matters most. My mother is untouchable." Later that afternoon, Adanna strolled into the living room. Her hair perfectly styled, her dress imported from Paris, and her diamond earrings glittering. She carried herself like a queen, her lips curved in a practiced smile. "Kunle," she said sweetly, "I've arranged the dinner for tonight. I've invited Chief Balogan, the Minister of Commerce, and a few of your business associates. It will be a beautiful evening." Kunle's eyes were cold as he looked at her. "Cancel it." Adanna blinked, her smile faltering. "Excuse me?" "I said cancel it," Kunle repeated, his voice like steel. "We are not entertaining anyone tonight." Adanna tilted her head, masking her irritation with a chuckle. "Darling, what is this about? You come home without notice and now you want to change everything? You sound upset." She stepped closer, resting her manicured hand on his arm. "If it's about your mother, you don't need to worry. I take very good care of her." Kunle's jaw tightened. He pulled his arm away, his eyes blazing. "Do not lie to me, Adanna." Her expression stiffened for a split second, but then she laughed lightly. "Lie? Kunle, what are you talking about?" Kunle walked over to the side table and pressed a button on the remote. The TV screen lit up. For a moment, static filled the screen, and then, there it was. Footage from the security camera. Adanna's voice screamed through the speakers. "You useless old woman!" The video showed her spilling food, threatening, shoving the wheelchair. Adanna froze, her face draining of color. She took a step back, her composure cracking. "Kunle, wait. This is not what it looks like." Kunle turned slowly, his voice low but powerful. "It looks exactly like what it is. You torment my mother while I am away. You put on a mask in front of me, in front of society, but behind closed doors you are a monster." Adanna's eyes darted left and right, searching for words, excuses. "She provoked me. She insults me when you're not here. You don't understand. Enough!" Kunle roared, his voice echoing through the mansion. For the first time, the calm, patient billionaire's mask broke. His fury was volcanic. "You dare to raise your hand against the woman who gave me life? The woman who prayed for me when I had nothing? You dare to treat her like trash in the very house I built for her?" Tears sprang into Adanna's eyes, but they were not from guilt. They were from fear. Fear of exposure, fear of losing the wealth and status she had married into. "Kunle, please." she whispered, her voice trembling. "I can explain. Don't throw everything away over one mistake." Kunle stepped closer, his face inches from hers, his voice calm but deadly. "This is not one mistake. This is who you are. And I promise you, Adanna, the world will see your true face." Adanna's lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, she realized Kunle was not the man she could manipulate anymore. He was her reckoning, and this confrontation was only the beginning. Kunle spent the next few days in calculated silence. Outwardly, he maintained his composure, attending to business meetings and social obligations, but inside, he was plotting his next move. Adanna avoided him, her smiles forced, her steps nervous, yet she still tried to carry herself like the glamorous wife of a billionaire. What she didn't know was that Kunle had already begun a deeper investigation into her actions. First, he called on his most trusted friend, Chike Obi, a sharp-witted lawyer with a reputation for uncovering truths others tried to bury. Chike came to the mansion late one night, and Kunle laid out the evidence he had so far, the CCTV footage, his mother's testimony, and the silent fear of the staff. Chike studied the videos carefully, shaking his head. "This is more than enough to destroy her reputation in court. But if you want to make this airtight, we need witnesses. The staff must speak even if they are afraid. And we must document your mother's injuries. Every scrape, every bruise, every sign of neglect." Kunle nodded firmly. "Do whatever it takes. I will not allow her to escape this." The next day, discreetly, Kunle instructed his driver and personal assistant to accompany his mother to a private hospital in Victoria Island. There, doctors conducted thorough examinations, recording signs of physical strain and emotional trauma. The reports were sealed and handed directly to Kunle. Meanwhile, Chike began interviewing the house staff. At first, most of them hesitated, afraid of Adanna's threats. But when Kunle personally assured them of protection, they opened up. One maid tearfully confessed how Adanna had once locked Mama Adeyemi in her room for hours without food. Another described how she had been slapped by Adanna for daring to help the old woman without permission. Each testimony was recorded, building a case that was becoming unshakable. But Kunle didn't stop there. He reached out to a journalist he trusted, Ngozi Okafor, known for her fearless reporting on corruption and domestic abuse cases. He didn't give her the full story yet, but he hinted that something explosive was brewing in the Adeyemi household. "Be ready," he told her, "because when I move, it will shake society." Back at the mansion, Adanna grew restless. She noticed Kunle's coldness, the way staff no longer obeyed her as quickly, the hushed conversations that stopped when she entered a room. Fear gnawed at her, but her pride refused to let her back down. One evening, she tried again to manipulate him. Dressed elegantly, she approached Kunle in his study. "Kunle," she began softly, "we've had misunderstandings, but we can fix this. Let's travel. Dubai, London, anywhere you like. Just the two of us. Leave all this behind." Kunle didn't even look up from the document he was signing. "The only journey you and I are going on, Adanna, is to the truth. And there is no plane ticket for that." Her face fell. For the first time, she understood he wasn't bluffing. By the end of the week, Kunle's investigation was complete. He had video proof, medical reports, staff testimonies, and a legal team ready to act. All that remained was the right moment to reveal it all, and Kunle knew exactly when that moment would come. He would wait until Adanna herself set the stage, surrounded by her wealthy friends and powerful connections. And then, in front of everyone, he would strip away her mask. The hunter had laid his traps. Now it was only a matter of time before the prey walked into them. The evening air in Lagos shimmered with anticipation, as Kunle's mansion prepared for what should have been a grand social gathering. Adanna had invited a small circle of Lagos's elite, business magnates, influential politicians, and a few of Kunle's own high-profile associates. The chandelier reflected golden light across the polished marble floors, the faint scent of imported perfumes mingling with the aroma of expensive Nigerian delicacies. Adanna walked through the hall with the grace of a queen, her designer gown flowing behind her, diamond earrings catching every beam of light. She smiled at the guests, her charm meticulous, practiced. Yet beneath that carefully crafted exterior, a storm of anxiety brewed. She knew Kunle had returned unexpectedly. She knew he had seen her act. And she had sensed, faintly but undeniably, that he had begun to uncover the evidence of her abuses. Kunle entered the hall quietly, dressed sharply in a tailored agbada, his presence commanding but understated. Eyes subtly followed him. He nodded politely, acknowledging old acquaintances. But Adanna's attention was entirely fixed on him, searching for a hint of weakness, any sign that she could manipulate him once again. As the dinner progressed, Adanna maintained her poise, pouring wine, laughing lightly at the right moments. But Kunle remained distant, his gaze steady, his mind focused on the final act. When the right moment came, he excused himself, and moments later returned carrying a small device, his laptop connected to the television in the hall. The screen flickered, capturing the attention of all present. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kunle's voice rang out, calm yet carrying the authority of a man who had endured enough. "Tonight I wanted to share something personal. Something that concerns my family and, specifically, my mother." Adanna's smile faltered. The room grew quiet. Guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension. Kunle pressed play. On the large screen, the first video played. Adanna's face contorted in anger as she yelled at Mama Adeyemi, shoved the wheelchair, and threw food across the room. The footage shifted, showing repeated instances of abuse, all recorded by Kunle's hidden cameras over the past few weeks. Gasps echoed through the hall. Some guests turned pale, others whispered among themselves. Adanna froze, her hand clutching the hem of her gown. Her carefully constructed mask began to crumble. "This," Kunle continued, "is the person my mother has endured behind closed doors while I was away. Every insult, every act of cruelty documented for truth and justice." Adanna tried to speak, her voice trembling. "Kunle, it's not— No," Kunle interrupted firmly. "It is exactly what it is. And I have corroborated it with medical reports and staff testimonies. Your manipulation, your lies, your cruelty, all of it ends tonight," the guests whispered furiously. Some looked shocked, others disapprovingly at Adanna. She stumbled backward, the room suddenly too small for her presence. Her usual charm failed her completely. Kunle advanced slowly, his voice unwavering. "Adanna, I trusted you. I opened my home, my life, and my family to you. And this is how you repay that trust? By hurting the woman who gave me life?" Tears streamed down Adanna's face, but they were no longer tears of performance. They were tears of fear. She realized that all her social power, all her beauty, all her connections could not shield her from the truth now exposed to those she wanted to impress. Kunle turned to the room, his voice resolute. "Justice is not selective. Anyone who witnesses abuse must speak. Let this be a lesson, not just for Adanna, but for anyone who believes appearances are more important than integrity." By the end of the evening, Adanna's fall from grace was complete. Her social circle withdrew, whispers of condemnation spread across Lagos's elite, and her reputation, once carefully polished, lay in tatters. Kunle had shown not only the truth, but had done so with the precision and dignity that left no room for her manipulation. In the quiet aftermath, Kunle approached his mother, who had been observing from a safe distance. He took her hand gently, guiding her to a nearby chair. "Mama," he said softly, "she can no longer hurt you." "It ends here," Mama Adeyemi nodded, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Kunle, my son, you've restored my dignity." And in that moment, Kunle realized that the battle was not only about punishment, it was about reclaiming honor, respect, and the unshakable bond between a mother and her son. The stage had been set, the truth revealed, and the world had witnessed the fall of a woman who thought she could hide behind wealth and beauty. Kunle's heart, though heavy with the memory of betrayal, felt lighter knowing that justice had been served. The mansion was quiet the next morning. The grand halls that had hosted the elite the night before now seemed emptier, almost solemn, echoing with the weight of what had occurred. Adanna had fled, her social network crumbling around her, and her influence extinguished in the wake of the public exposure. But Kunle knew the journey was not over. True justice required more than just humiliation. It required restoration. Kunle found his mother in the sunlit garden, the morning light spilling over the manicured lawns. Mama Adeyemi sat in her wheelchair, a blanket draped across her legs, her hands clasped together as she absorbed the calm after the storm. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now reflected relief and pride. Kunle approached, kneeling beside her and taking her frail hands into his own. "Mama," he said softly, "you are safe now. No one will ever harm you in this house again." She looked up at him, tears glistening. "Kunle, my son, you've done more than protect me. You've honored me, shown the world that my life and dignity matter." Kunle smiled faintly, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "And I will continue to protect you, Mama, every day. I've realized something. Wealth, power, even fame, they are meaningless if they come at the cost of love and respect. You, Mama, are my true fortune." With the mansion secure, Kunle turned his attention outward. He resolved to create a foundation for women like his mother, disabled, vulnerable, or abused. Within weeks, the Adeyemi Foundation for Disabled Women was launched, providing shelter, education, and legal aid for those whose voices had been silenced. News outlets covered the story widely, praising Kunle not only for his courage in exposing his wife, but also for transforming personal tragedy into societal change. Meanwhile, Adanna's attempts to reclaim her status failed. She faced legal proceedings instigated by the testimonies of staff and the evidence Kunle had compiled. Her wealthy connections could not erase the undeniable truth. She was forced to pay restitution and accept divorce on Kunle's terms. One afternoon, as Kunle sat with his mother in the garden, he reflected on the journey. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow across the estate. Mama Adeyemi's wheelchair was parked beside a fountain, the water shimmering in the light. Kunle held a cup of tea, sipping slowly as he watched his mother's contented smile. "You've grown stronger through all this, Mama," Kunle said quietly, "and I've grown too, stronger, wiser, and more aware of what truly matters." Mama Adeyemi reached out, placing her hand over his. "Kunle, you've shown me that love, courage, and justice are far more valuable than any riches. You've given me peace." Kunle nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. The betrayal, the anger, the fear, they had all led to this moment. Justice had been served. His mother was safe, honored, and revered not only in their home but across Lagos society. As dusk settled, Kunle stood and looked out across the sprawling estate. His mind was clear, his heart steady. He had faced deception, abuse, and betrayal. Yet he had emerged not only victorious but principled. The billionaire who returned unexpectedly had confronted the darkness in his home and had restored light, dignity, and love. And in that quiet, powerful moment he whispered, "Mama, you are my wealth, my life, and my legacy. Nothing, not even betrayal, can ever take that away."